Then the prison system became the biggest houser of the mentally ill in America after that. The other thing is, well, a lot of the staff in the medical department in the prisons in Arizona were barred from public practice. So they'd gone to the prison system because that was the last resort. So I connected with that guy, and it was pretty much a unique situation. I wish I could get a hold of him actually and thank him, because I've not been able to get a hold of him, but I'm hoping at some point that I can. Yeah. Okay, next question at the back.
Being in prison for 6 years, you've obviously had like a big break from your old life to what is your new life now.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of remnants from your old life? So like the people, the money, or any kind of like, obviously you don't take drugs now, but does any of that kind of come forward to you now that you're kind of out in the open?
Okay, it's like the remnants of my old life come into my dreams and stuff like that. It's weird, it's like my life was sliced in half, because when I first got arrested, that first year, I'm pining for my old lifestyle back, I'm resenting getting caught, and still clinging to all that, and it was getting pushed to the brink of suicidal madness in the second year in the maximum security jail. I actually acknowledge as a turning point where I let all that go. I look back on it now, and it's like it's a dream or something when I look back at that person.
Do you not have anyone from your old life trying to contact you?
Yeah. Half of them have quit drugs, half of them are still doing drugs, and the ones who are still doing drugs from the party scene in Arizona, every year 2 or 3 of them die. Yeah. My book Party Time, at the end of it, it's got a list of all the main characters in the book. I think about 5 of them killed themselves or died because they kept doing drugs. Okay.
Do you find it difficult to fit back into society after you've been
Yeah, I was institutionalized. Fitting back into society is tricky once you do over 5 years, because you start to get institutionalized. I was on, if any guys have seen that movie Con Air, when I was getting released, Con Air, Nicolas Cage is on the plane, all the prisoners are chained up, federal marshals guarding them. I was on Con Air for 2 or 3 days going across California and Arizona, and they finally put me on a flight from LA back to London. I've been awake for like 2 or 3 days now, but I'm just so excited I'm getting released. One of the first mistakes I made was, they said, we're going to put you on first so you don't scare the passengers, and we'll take your chains off. Got on the plane, all the people get on, I could smell the women's perfume and the alcohol. I'm so sensitive to smell, I've been around sweaty, hairy men for 6 years. But one of the first mistakes I made was I put my hand up and I asked a female member of the cabin crew permission for me to go on the toilet. She's like, you don't need to ask, the toilet's right there. And I'm going bright red and everybody's just looking at me. Yeah, so I got home then, and my mum said I was like a puppy dog following her around the house waiting for orders. Yeah, I was on the dole, living with my parents, all money got taken, and I was getting depressed and stuff like that. I ended up getting a phone call from London about 6 months in saying I'd won a short story contest. And that got me down to the Royal Festival Hall where I read it, and I met the Cursor Trust, brilliant organisation who sponsor prisoners to rehabilitate through art. They put me on their mentor scheme. A published author came and met with me every month. And thanks to her working her magic, that's what led to me becoming an author. Yeah, so it took some time to readjust, but a lot of good people came along to help me. A lot of these guys coming back into the country, they don't have any family or friends to help them. They've been out of the country for years. And there's another organisation called Prisoners Abroad who help those guys. They give them a shower, find them somewhere to stay, and try and help put them back into work and stuff like that. I had all the advantages in life. All of these guys, and I shouldn't have been committing crimes. I see the situation some of these guys are in, it's really bad. Okay?
When you were running the empire, did it have a business front, or was it a pure drug cash business? Did it have like a legitimate front to it?
You would understand that.
I just wondered.
I took everything I learned in business studies degree and from the stock market, what I learned in that business world, and I ran it like a business. We had a monthly crime family dinner where the head of each faction that was working for me would come and meet in a steakhouse in Arizona, and I had legal benefits, So if anyone was arrested, they would automatically be bailed out. They'd have a lawyer representing them, so no one would snitch me out. And that's how it grew to where I had about 200 people working for me at the peak of it. Now, that might sound glamorous. On the other side of it, my biggest competitor in the ecstasy market was Sammy the Bull Gravano, the underboss of the Gambino crime family, who murdered up to 24 people. The Gambinos were the number one of the 5 Italian mafia families out of New York. He set up an ecstasy ring out of Tempe, Arizona, and I met his son. We had run-ins over the years, and I met his son in prison, Gerard Gravano, and he said to me he'd been dispatched one night as the head of an armed crew to kidnap me and take me out to the desert. And the only reason we missed him that night was because my best friend from my hometown, Wildman, one of my bouncers is about this big, he had a fight and we had to leave that club in a hurry. So, if you're going to get into drugs at that level, you're going to be bumping heads with the mafia at some point, because the mafia control most of the drugs that are being distributed around the world. And again, it's one of those things that makes me feel that I'm lucky to be alive. Yep.
When you come across that mafia guy, I watched your video. When you stopped your drug business.
Yeah.
You actually stayed in Arizona.
Yeah.
Why did you stay?
I fell in love with a woman, and she wasn't a raver, and she taught me out of the drug dealing. She said it was putting her at risk and her family at risk. And, I was naive to the law. I thought, all right, if I quit selling drugs now, I can live happily ever after with this lady, and it's all over. Her parents are never going to find out and all this stuff. But if you commit a drug crime, you've got statute of limitations says you've got up to 7 years where they can come and get you. You don't have to catch you with the drugs, you can be quit. And that's what happened in my case. Yeah. Okay, but I broke the law and I deserve to be punished, and I accept my karma cheerfully. Anyone else? Yeah?
You said that about all your money mistakes. Did you not get anything back that you could prove that obviously you earned legitimately?
No. If you are stupid enough to have wealth and to commit crimes, and I was one of those people, they will target you to liquidate everything you own, including my pension as a stockbroker, everything I legally earn. The law is written as such that they can just say it's to offset the cost of the case, multi-million-dollar investigation. So that's why they were able to take everything. I thought I was outsmarting the police. I flew people over from England, put money in their names. If I get arrested, this money's here, I can use it. The police were one step ahead. They put a virus in my computer called the NetBus Trojan Horse that showed them everything that I had. So the day I was arrested, all of my assets were seized in the beginning and then confiscated. But again, that was part of my punishment. And as I was in the prison, the jail, pining for my old lifestyle, pining for all that money, there reached a turning point when I was in the second year, when I was on the brink of the suicidal madness, where I felt like I was a mad monk in a cave, and I felt freedom from all the money and all the responsibility and all the stress and the strain that had surrounded it. It was like I had this overwhelming feeling of liberation from it all, from running this business and managing all these people, free of it. And I was happy for days just thinking about that. It's really weird. I never expected it. It just came out of the blue. Yeah.
You still with you about that?
Why do you want to know? I never swung that way in prison. But prison time, all the way through it, guys are hitting on me. All the way through it, guys are hitting on me. No, seriously though, I'm dating a yoga instructor now, and she keeps me grounded. And I'm going off to the Welsh mountains, Snowdonia, to a yoga retreat this weekend, and it's like being on drugs. This yoga business, it really is. You can feel like this naturally. You don't need to take the drugs. It's great. I do this thing called